Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So Sherlock Season 4 is getting ready to start on January 1st on the BBC and PBS, so I'm teaming up with my friends at BBC Worldwide just to explain what's going on and everything that's happened so far. So Sherlock is finally back. The first episode is going to be airing January 1st on the BBC and PBS in the United States. Each episode after that, episodes 2 and 3, there's 3 episodes total, will air the week after that. So January 1st, January 8th, and then the 15th. So if it's been a long time since you've watched or you've never watched Sherlock and you have no idea what's going on, I'm going to recap like the first 3 seasons and the specials just to explain what's been happening and what's going on. So no worries, no spoilers for Season 4, and I'll add links to the trailers that they've posted on the Sherlock YouTube channel at the end of this. So if you've never watched Sherlock before, Benedict Cumberbatch you probably know as Doctor Strange, little movie that just came out. Martin Freeman was also in Captain America Civil War. So there's kind of a Marvel and a Sherlock reunion happening at the same time here, which is really funny. Before Season 1 aired, there weren't that many people outside of the UK that knew who they were, but it was almost like the big seismic shift after Robert Downey Jr. started doing Iron Man Marvel movies. Like, suddenly everybody was paying attention to them, so they just blew up big time. I'll go episode by episode, but largely Season 1 is just the coming together of Sherlock and Watson, like the story of how they first met and how they started solving crimes together. Moriarty didn't really manifest till the end of the season. Season 2 was more Moriarty heavy, but because of the way they structure episodes, some of them will be mythology episodes where you'll have like this overarching storyline of Sherlock versus Moriarty, and some of them will be more standalone, like Hound of Baskerville. So let's just go through the episodes, starting with episode 1, A Study in Pink. Sherlock meets Dr. Watson for the first time. So the main adventure of this story is Sherlock and Watson solving a series of murders where people seem to have died by taking a poison pill. They find the person that's behind the pills that's compelled these people to take these is actually himself being controlled by Moriarty in a very Princess Bride poison standoff between Sherlock and the serial killer. He is saved by Watson, who shoots the serial killer, proving what a badass he is. But they're lauded as heroes by the police department. They sort of prove their worth and are allowed to continue solving cases. The episode does a brilliant job of setting the characters up, explaining their personalities. You literally meet Sherlock for the first time as he's beating a corpse. But the whole idea here is just them beginning their day-to-day of solving mysteries, Watson blogging about it. He has a blog in the original Arthur Conan Doyle stories that the episodes are adapted from. Watson, in a very meta way, is writing the stories after they've happened. So as you're reading the adventures of Sherlock Holmes, it's almost like it was written by Watson himself. So on the TV show, the form that takes is the blog. That begins to take off, so over the course of the first couple seasons, they turn into internet celebrities, which they later turn into a big twist in Season 2, which I'll explain in a second. The second episode, The Blind Banker, is more of a deep dive into Sherlock deciphering codes and symbols. You start to learn more about the Mind Palace. It's an international smuggling operation. He finds out that the blind banker himself was killed because he stole something in the process of smuggling illegal goods. So Sherlock runs afoul of a gang called the Black Lotus Tong, but then later we find out that Moriarty was again pulling the strings under the name of someone called M. So at the end of the episode, we still haven't seen his face. The third episode, The Great Game, is the first time we actually get to see Moriarty in the flesh. He finally steps out. This is where it gets a little meta, because Sherlock has to recover some secret government plans for a very important project, but at the same time is challenged by Moriarty to solve a series of crimes where he's rigged different people with exploding vests. If he doesn't solve the mystery, they go boom. Sherlock finally learns how they're all connected, recovers the plans, but in doing so, it throws him into Moriarty's path. So just as Sherlock is getting ready to blow them all up to defeat Moriarty, Moriarty gets a phone call from someone that ends up being a Season 2 teaser for that first episode that I'll explain in a second. But they've had their first standoff. The unstoppable force meets the immovable object, sort of a rain check that they give each other on the apocalypse that they were going to rain down. So Season 2, Episode 1, we learned that Moriarty, when he was talking to Sherlock, when they were getting ready to blow each other up, was Irene Adler, who was calling him because she had leverage on one of the royal family members. So the episode is all about scandals. There's the smaller plot, getting the scandalous photos of the royal back from Irene Adler, but then it becomes something much bigger because Irene Adler has evidence of a huge government cover-up. In going back and forth through the episode, we learn that Sherlock and Irene Adler have a weird sexual obsession with each other that kind of continues in the background in future seasons. Another big change now during Season 2 is that because Sherlock is aware of Moriarty, he's ever present in the episode. He sits across from Sherlock, he taunts him, they're playing their game. Eventually they capture him, but then later release him in the second episode. Episode 2, Hound of Baskerville, is more of a standalone episode, not so much about Moriarty, even though he is in it. He gets released, but it's mostly about this chemical weapons program that Sherlock finds out about that has the acronym HOUND, so that's where the Hound of Baskerville comes from. Episode 3, The Reichenbach Ball. Now that Moriarty's been released from the government facility, he's free to go after Sherlock, forces him to commit suicide or else all of his friends will die. So Moriarty has created a situation whereby he kills himself, but his agents will still kill all of Sherlock's friends if he doesn't throw himself off the building. So Sherlock has to come up with a plan to fulfill the terms of that bargain while at the same time not killing himself. So Season 2 to Season 3 was this big mystery because Sherlock seemingly killed himself. He stepped off the building at the end of the episode, but then they cut to black. So earlier I mentioned that Watson's blog turned them into internet celebrities. This is where they pick up with the blog coming into Season 3. There was like a short episode where Sherlock was like, "Hey everybody, I'm back." So Season 3, the mystery was, how did he survive? And part of the fun of the episode was the idea that this cult of Sherlock had risen in his absence, everybody thinking that maybe he's dead, maybe he's not dead. Here are all the different ways that he could have survived. So it's been about 2 years that everyone thought that Sherlock was dead. Watson's moved on with his life, and he is now engaged to Mary Morstan. They're getting ready to get married. So if you don't know her, she's a big figure from the canon that becomes Watson's wife and helps him as he's writing the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. So Mary becomes a big part of the Season 3 cast in all the episodes. She has her own secrets that we learn about over the course of the 3 episodes, but she becomes a very important figure in what used to be this 2-person partnership. So a lot of the comedy flows from Sherlock just getting used to there being like a third wheel now in their little group. But eventually we learn about a new overarching villain because Moriarty is arguably dead. Like Sherlock saw him shoot himself in the head. So there's still a lot of theories about how he could possibly survive. But the new big bad of Season 3 was Augustus Magnussen, this sort of evil media baron who just had control of tons and tons of information and also had a mind palace, like the ability to hold and process information just as well as Sherlock. So he slowly manifests, but they don't really face off till the 3rd episode. The second episode, The Sign of 3, is more of a comedy about the wedding of Mary and Watson, but at the end, Sherlock learns that Mary is pregnant. They all learn that she's pregnant. So the baby itself becomes this ticking time bomb that's getting ready to go off in Series 4. But the final episode is Sherlock versus Magnussen, this big bad for Season 3. So his big thing is blackmail. He has this media empire, like imagine him being the head of something like Facebook. So he has all this information that could hurt everyone. He uses it to get people to do what he wants. People in positions of power, people in parliament. The only recourse Sherlock can find is to kill him before he can harm anyone else. So Sherlock is now a murderer being arrested and carted off. But at the very end, there's this teaser as Sherlock's being flown away. They make you feel like this is the end of their partnership, this is the end of Sherlock. But just as the plane is getting ready to take off, everywhere all over London, a message of Moriarty pops up on digital screens just all over the city saying, "Did you miss me?" So the government is forced to bring Sherlock back to help solve this new mystery. But then in real life, because there was so much time between Season 3 and now Season 4, which we're getting ready for of Sherlock, they did a Christmas special last year instead of doing new episodes, but it was like a full episode. So the teaser is that they were doing an episode of Sherlock in full period in 1895 with all the same actors, all the same characters. So normally Sherlock is set in present day. So it was really just like everybody taken back to the 1890s and they were going to do a Sherlock mystery. But then at the end, the big twist is that we find Sherlock has been inside his mind palace. This whole episode has taken place in Sherlock's mind, with him trying to learn how Moriarty could have survived, because we thought he was dead for the entirety of Season 3. So now part of the fun of Series 4 is going to be answering that question in the first episode. Like, what's going on? Who's the new villain? What was happening with Moriarty's picture popping up all over London simultaneously? So what's going to happen is I'll be doing videos for each of the episodes, but here's the thing. Like, I know you waited a long time for Series 4 to get here, but the episodes are a full 90 minutes, which is basically like a small movie for each episode. It's huge. It's way bigger than a normal episode of an hour-long drama. So if you've never watched Sherlock before, it's kind of like watching a movie for each episode. So there's a serialized plot that sort of runs in the background of each of the episodes with like Sherlock versus the big bad, but then within each episode, there are a bunch of smaller mysteries that he has to solve. So I don't need to tell you how fantastic Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman are. They're two amazing actors, especially when they're doing Sherlock. So if you've never watched it before, I would recommend that you watch at least a couple episodes just to get yourself ready, and then watch Series 4 starting on January 1st. So like I said, I'll be posting episode videos, and the official Sherlock YouTube channel will be posting a bunch of clips and behind the scenes stuff, interviews with the actors on their YouTube channel, so I'll post links to that at the end of this. While you guys wait for that to post, you can click here to rewatch the Season 4 trailer on their channel, and you can click here for all the other interviews and behind the scenes stuff they've been posting. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.